Sorry, Sugar Sammy's here. How you doing, Sugar Sammy?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Finally.
Oh, your fucking hair is always perfect.
Yeah,
I hate guys like you. What's up with
man.
that? You put it like it's a product right away? Is it you wake up
it's
that
a
way?
mix. No, it takes a while. It's a mix of pomade and then hairspray to keep it that way for the rest of the day, and a few touch-ups here and there.
So you do. Do you know Brian O'Gorman, by the way?
Hey, Brian.
Okay,
Nice to meet you.
Brian,
Hey, man, nice to
comedian,
meet you.
co-host in the show today.
You guys just put hats and toques on, and that's it, huh?
That's it. So you don't have to do the hair. We both have dirty ponytails, so we're trying to cover them up.
Yeah, but your hair's at least got like a cool kind of look. Mine just like a consistent look, I would imagine, Brian. Is that right?
Yeah, it's consistently gross.
Yeah, okay, and mine is just like total horrible Jew fro. And the hat's the only thing that contain it. And I swear to God, if hats weren't acceptable in the entertainment industry, like they're not in, say, 9-to-5 corporate types, or being a doctor or something, I wouldn't have had a career because I needed it as a security blanket, Sugar Sammy. So at least this is one of the outlets that I could wear it.
But I think the Jew fro is in now. Yeah, it is. It's in season. You should exploit that this fall because everyone's doing it on the runways. I've seen it in Milan. I've seen it.
Straight-haired people trying to like recreate the Jew fro. How did they make it happen?
Jew fro's the new thing. So exploit it now before, because in winter it'll be gone.
I wouldn't be, you know what, as much, even if it say that were the case, I, honest to God, would not be able to leave the house. I am that insecure by my hair without a cap on it. Sugar Sammy, do you have any insecurities? Is there anything that yeah?
Geez, who doesn't?
Well,
right?
you're
We
on
all
stage in front of thousands of people, specials here, doing comedy for years. Yeah, you seem like a super confident guy.
Right, but still, like guys have way more, I think, complexities than we used to. Like I get complexes all the time. I get insecurities because of what you see in the media. Remember, it used to be back in the day when women would say, "Oh, it's tough being a woman because there's media's throwing all of this image at you, like making it hard for you to live up to these images that are out there." Totally, men are kind of getting that pressure too. We got to be in the gym now. It's unacceptable to have a gut on TV. It's unacceptable. Comedy's the only safe place where we can still have a belly and be all right. Like I'm trying to make sure that stays there. keeping this gut together.
Well, I actually think that's an important point. I often ask the better looking comedians this, and that's all subjective. That's just who I think is better looking. But is it harder to get a laugh? Without being, necessarily like a character, looking like an animated version of a human being or something. Right. Is it? I would put you, Sugar Sammy, in the upper echelon of good looking comics.
I love it.
I kiss ass to a lot of my guests.
Man, okay. Am I what, top 3, top 5? Where do I need to know the rank. This is like a totally insecure guy question. Where do I rank for you, Todd? What do you mean top echelon? Who else is up there?
What am I like next to Eddie Murphy? Am I hotter than Eddie Murphy?
I think you're hotter than Eddie Murphy. Chris D'Elia I'd put up there. Okay. He's a good looking comic. I think Chris D'Elia is a good looking comic.
I'd fuck Chris D'Elia.
Yeah.
Am I better looking than 80s Eddie Murphy?
You had it tight.
Man. That's hard, man. There's just some good clothes too.
Oh, that's delirious with that red leather suit.
But he's a diagonal zipper. Fuck yeah.
that was his peak.
No, he got you there. Yeah.
No, but I think here's the key. I think if you're not self-aware on stage, anybody can get their audience. Anybody can get a laugh. You got to not be self-aware. As long as you're not aware and you're not always watching yourself from the outside. And I think a lot of times that's the question people ask. They say, "Oh, these good-looking female comedians, is it tougher for them to get a laugh?" And I'm like, no, I've seen good-looking female comedians get laughs when they don't care about how they look on stage, when they don't care about how they're perceived. Because anybody, when you're caring about how you're on stage, you're not performing freely out there, right? So it's very key. I think that's the.
I love that actually, and I've I've asked this question before. I've actually never heard it quite said that simply, which is great to me.
Yeah.
Because I think it's great advice for anyone listening in any situation they're in, whether you're trying to close a business deal or whether you're trying to pick up a chick, whatever it is. You're right. Usually, the less you think about yourself on how you are and just be yourself, I would think you have better success rates.
Yeah, and not call them chicks. It should work out.
I'm married now. I can do what I want.
It should work perfectly. But
I think
because when you're self-aware, it shows. In any situation, when you're like really thinking about how am I coming across, 50% of your delivery is gone right there. So I mean,
so much of comedy is being vulnerable too. I just kind of like opening up to people and stuff. And if you're just trying to like play to your ego and try to get like, I always like, this dudes have these come fuck me sets. I always say, you know, when they have like the sets where it's always like humble brags as the setup. It's always like, so I was in my Mercedes and I'm driving down the street, blah, blah, and you're like, really, shut the fuck up. Immediately, it's not funny because you're trying to be cooler than everybody in the room, right?
Yeah.
You have a bit of humility attached to that shit. You know what I mean? And you start with like, I farted in a Mercedes. You're like, oh, this guy knows what the deal is. Yeah.
100%. I think that's right as well.
How do you what advice then would you give to people to if they're a young comic on how to kind of forget about all that stuff, as opposed to not only just forget about bragging about yourself, but I would imagine they don't have the Mercedes head. But how do, and I'm actually speaking from experience for someone who's tried it 5 times, and I can tell you I'm terrible at it, and I'm so within my own head though that I am way too aware that I put up my own. I'm so aware that I can't even see the audience or relate to the audience, and they smell my fear in 1 second. And it's a weird human condition that they can do that as well. But what advice is that you give to people?
Well, it's only because you've been up 5 times, right? So I think the more you do it, the less scared you'll get. The advice I would give is write as unfiltered as you can, without any censorship. Don't censor yourself. Don't think about how am I going to come across. What are people going to think of me? Are they watching me and going, this person's a loser, this person's a slut, or this? Don't do that to yourself. Write as freely as possible. Go out there and test it on stage, and you'll see what works and doesn't. Keep what works. Let the audience be your filter. You'll figure it out, and go there fearlessly. And you'll get better every day, when you go up there. So go up there as much as possible. And if you have something good, by the end of a few sessions, you'll get better and better. And, by the end of a few months, you should be able to get, some level of confidence where you think to yourself, I can actually do this, but it's a long haul. It's not an easy thing. It's not going to happen overnight. It's like anything. It's like building muscles. You're not going to build muscles by being in the gym once or twice or 3 or 4 or 5 times. It's got to be consistency. You got to be up there doing it over and over and over, and you got to love it. You got to love it to the point where you don't care if you're going to end up poor, but you're going to do this for the rest of your life. And you'll say, I'm willing to risk it all to not make it because I love it so much.
That is an amazing thing you guys have, that quality.
And all that's just prerequisite, right?
That's just prerequisite.
That's what it takes to get in the door.
Yeah. That's open mic night.
Straight the fuck up.
Sugar Sammy, I guess my next question is then, how do you deal with a sort of the criticism of it too, of the failing, of maybe even having a decent set, but half the audience not liking it, growing that thick skin? Does that take some time too?
It takes time. You got to hurt before it gets easier. It's like having your heart broken. That first time really hurts.
Yeah.
And then that second time hurts, but not as much as the first time, but it still hurts. And then the third time and then the fourth time, it gets easier, but you still know it's going to hurt. And eventually you also figure out how to not get your heart broken and what the right steps are. Right? And when it does happen, it's okay because I can still continue and I'll be all right. So it's sort of, there are a lot of parallels to that.
It's funny, lately I'm on this kick where we're all kind of AI. We're all like this artificial intelligence. We're all actually in some simulated reality here. And when you say it like that, it's sort of my theory on how we're all just in a video game and everything has a level. And you eventually conquer that level. And then you go on to the next level. And, you try and conquer that. But, you game over a bunch of times in the middle of it. It seems like a similar approach.
Yeah, of course. That's how you grow. That's how you grow as a person. You got to get hurt and you got to be out there and make mistakes, and that's how athletes do it, right? So that's how you got to do it in every aspect of your life. You got to go out there, make mistakes, learn from it, try not to make that same mistake the next time, and you'll get better.
Now, a total aside here, and then we'll focus on Sugar Sammy, who's going across Canada soon, and tickets are now on sale for the big Just for Laughs Canadian comedy tour with Alonzo Bodden, who's a fucking genius. I love him.
He's amazing.
And Gina Brillin, who we got to interview in JFL 2 years ago, and I really got to like her as well.
Yeah, they're two of the best in the business right now. Both of them.
Yeah, Alonzo's blowing up, isn't
amazing.
He? It's amazing stuff. I will tell you about ticket information for that in a moment. These two guys I work with, Bilal and Pedro, wonderful, wonderful human beings. I feel like you would be a great...
I love how you got Brown help, and now you're trying to recruit a third guy into this crew. I can see where this is going.
No, it's quite the... It's
and look, Bilal's like, I'm not brown.
no, Pedro. That's Pedro. Yeah.
Pedro, you're brown.
Yeah.
Mediterranean.
Yeah, but you're
Mediterranean.
brown.
Yeah. You're browner than white. Let's put it that way.
One of those brown guys that tells people
All
it's
right,
white.
you want us to get specific? You're olive.
Yeah, you're nice.
You're olive. There you go.
I don't know why I brought this up. I don't always bring them
I knew
into
where it was
conversation.
going.
Well, they're both virgins.
Are you?
29-year-old virgin, 35-year-old virgin. I feel like you would be a great guy with all this advice you've given us. A comedy vet, good-looking dude, could probably help these guys a little bit.
I'm actually surprised that you guys are virgins.
Thank you.
Because you're actually like, good-looking dudes.
Yeah, I know.
You could guess it. Like, you look clean. You look like you shave, you shower, you get haircuts. Like
Yesterday.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm pretty surprised that you guys are virgins at that age. Is this true? This is the truth?
True story. Like, yeah.
Wow, guys, just go out there. Just go out there, smile, and be nice. Like, some girls like nice guys too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, to be friends with.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? Talking to Mike.
And get rid of that attitude.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the truth.
It's that attitude. You're pessimistic. When I called you brown, you hated it. When I told you to go out there and
It's from experience.
all right, listen, man, you got to change that attitude. It's his attitude. I'll tell you right away. This is all attitude. Him, I think he's got potential right here. Yeah. Yeah, you're Bilal, right?
Yeah.
You got tons of potential. It's not a great time for dudes named Bilal right now in the world, but I think you got. I still think you got.
20 years ago.
Yeah, I still think you got potential. Just change. You know what? You should change your name too. Pedro. You get lots of play if you change it to Pedro and give him Bilal.
I think him as a Bilal might be kind of cool. Intriguing. Yeah.
No, but I think, I don't know. Go out there. Trial and error, guys. Trial and error. I think, you know what your thing is, both of you. You don't try. It's a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
And I think you give up and you think the world is a mean place and a hateful place, and you're like, it's never going to happen, and they don't like me, and blah, blah, blah. And I think you're just afraid of rejection.
I just am watching too many superhero shows. By the way, The Gifted is tonight. I can't wait for that.
You don't go out, that's why. You don't go out.
Yeah,
I keep on telling you, go out. Yes, I go out.
Yeah, but you scare women. Like, you go out and you scare.
And we also can't have virgins telling virgins how to get laid. This isn't going to happen.
Your problem is too much confidence?
No, not confidence.
Not enough confidence?
Somewhat, yeah.
Oh, okay. And what's your issue?
No, Pedro's right. I don't get out, and maybe I don't long for human comfort. Maybe that's probably part of the problem.
Yeah, I think if you went out, you would do well.
You should go out more.
You would, you would do well. You should stay at home. But you, when you go out, you should. Bilal, go out. Go out this weekend. Yeah, it'll go down.
We got an Argos game. We'll go to that.
Okay, yeah, we'll go to that. I'm bringing you to the. Are you going to come to the Argos game? Are TFC supporters allowed doing that, Pedro?
No, it'd be no way.
What kind of chicks are going to pick up at the
TFC
fucking Argos game?
No, it's Maxim night. There's going to be a lot of girls.
It's
there.
Maxim
yeah,
night?
it's going to be a big night.
And this guy is practicing to be a grumpy old man. Yeah. Big time.
It's a little bit cynical.
Yeah.
Let's see, Sugar Sammy's being honest. He's not being mean. Talk to the mic.
Story, so you can't really comment.
We're having fun too.
Look at this attitude.
I know.
Sugar Sammy,
While you go out this weekend.
You've had such a great career, and where did it all start? Right here?
Started in Montreal.
Right in Montreal,
Yeah.
sorry, of course. And then you became so globally recognized. And that's not always easy for a comedian. What do you is it your confidence? How did that happen for you?
No, I think it's my willingness to actually go out there and try it everywhere else. I think for me it was the curiosity. I wanted to go learn about different cultures and write about them and communicate with them and play to them and win over new audiences. I think you have to have that will to say, okay, I want to go out there and I want to go do France. Not a lot of people think that. Like, okay, I'll go do France, even though I'm doing well on the English side. Okay, I want to create a show for Quebec. I think I have something to say here. My next step after that is I went to India. I was like, I want to know where my roots come from. I want to know about my roots. I want to go out there and I want to connect with an Indian audience. So you got to have that curiosity and that willingness to not only learn from someone else, but also appreciate another culture. And I think that comes from being Canadian. I think this country, we have that philosophy where we're not only inclusive, we appreciate the differences in each other. And that, I think, makes it very easy. I've seen this a lot with Canadian comedians, for Canadian comedians to travel and do well in other places. You see that you don't see that very often. You see it with Canadians, you see it with Brits, and you see it with Australians a bit too. But you don't see
people
it with
with
everyone.
open minds.
You don't see it with everyone. Like I've seen Canadians do well in the U.S., in the U.K., in Australia. I've seen that. And I've seen Brits do well in Canada and do well in in Australia. I've seen that happen. But I think Canadians I've seen at the biggest level where they've been able to connect with audiences pretty much everywhere in the world.
It's interesting. I was hanging out with on the show here, Jean-Paul. Who's just a gem of a guy.
He's awesome. Yeah, a gentleman.
And from our, how old, if you don't mind me asking? Are you?
I'm 41.
You're 40. Yeah. So I assumed you were sort of in your early 40s. I'm 44. He's a bit older, 47. But I sort of thought it was of a generational thing too. Like when we all kind of grew up, we grew up so. Well, we're very diverse as a country. Growing up in like kind of certain areas where you're very diverse growing up, you never think about people as anything other than kind of Canadian. But you're right, where you have fun with each other's differences in a way that there's never any malicious intent behind it.
Yeah.
And to explore people's differences too. That was instilled in us, and I think that is an important thing to say. And I love that about most Canadians. Like I think that is such a great asset that sometimes maybe we don't even realize we have and take for granted.
It's true. It's true. It's like education by immersion, right? Like we're immersed in it. That it's like our normal, And people sometimes will say something when you go abroad, and you're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "No, I know about all of this because it was normal to me. I knew why my friend on Friday, my Jewish friend, couldn't come out and hang out with us because he had Shabbat dinner, right? So it's like, yeah, it's easy." And they're like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "I don't know."
My buddy, we had to go and run home before baseball ended. Like that type of thing. It was that simple, right?
It was simple. So it's like all of these, I think Canadians in general are very culturally savvy, and that's because of that attitude I think that we have of, and it comes from, thank God it comes from, the top down. It comes from our politicians. You see, our current prime minister, it's like, everybody in the world is jealous of who we've got running the country. So it's pretty awesome that we keep giving that image out to other people, and they're envious of where we live. I mean, if they saw how much taxes we paid, they'd be less envious. But otherwise they're pretty envious of it, which is cool.
He's a guy that would probably struggle doing stand-up comedy because he's so good looking. He might be on that list.
Yeah, maybe. Too hot.
So Sugar Sammy hanging out with us. Tell me about the tour that you're doing.
Yeah, Just for Laughs tour is going to be, it's going to start October 13th. It's almost coast to coast. It starts in it starts in Vancouver and goes all the way to Ottawa. So coast to coast, 13 shows in 15 days. We'll be on a flight pretty much every day of that tour. It's going to be exciting, but also a grueling schedule.
And how did you guys end up getting teamed up with Alonzo and Gina? How did that come about?
I think it was just the producers at Just for Laughs I think saw what the fit was, and it was a pretty diverse fit that went well together. And I think comedians who would draw to different audiences, but also complement each other on stage. So, and I think who travel well together. That's a very important thing.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and I think the three of us, I think, are in our 40s and beyond. I think we'll probably mature enough to be able to not only travel well together, but also appreciate each other.